I'm Dean. I'm the dad.
I'm Laura. I'm the mom.
And I'm Krys. I'm the daughter.
And I'm Jane.
Together
I'm the
we
gift.
are Family Plot.
That delay made that really weird, babe.
Yeah, that's some weird stuff right there. That was some weird stuff.
Oh, I jumped in. I didn't. Was I not? I was supposed to, right?
Let me see if that frees us up a little bit, babe. I dropped my camera, so let's see if that opens up the bandwidth a little bit.
Gotcha. That's a good idea. I didn't even think about that.
I lost Krista and Mom with on my
We're doing
screen.
the show, and I'm off in my own little world. Hi. Welcome to the show. So let's first and foremost welcome our guest, distinguished author Jane Nightshade.
Hi. Thank you for letting me on. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about all things spooky for Christmas. And so I'm just glad to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Well, we are glad you are here. Very happy.
Well,
so let's get the housekeeping out of the way, short and sweet. There's Patreon, a couple of levels, $1 and $3, real simple. It's a monthly thing. We can, of course, use the help, but if you don't have the money, hey, we don't hold that against you. You can always do a one-time donation through Buy Me a Coffee. And if you can't do that, the one thing we do ask is that you share the show on social media.
Share it with friends.
With family.
With everybody.
With everyone. But if you don't enjoy the show, please keep it to yourself.
There is a major delay in our normal stuff that works just fine, just isn't rolling tonight.
It's okay. Stuff happens.
Yep.
Yeah. We just got to go along with it.
Let me see if I can. Never mind. All right. Where were we? Oh, yes. We're introducing the show. What are we talking about this week? Well, tonight we dig into some Christmas stories, a little bit of the miracle, magic, and overall oddness of Christmas Day. Tonight we go full folktale and full holiday in our special Christmas episode featuring distinguished author, once again, Jane Nightshade. But first,
why don't you let Jane actually tell us a little bit about herself before we go into Krista's Corner?
Okay.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. So I'm.
Yeah.
I'm a writer.
I'll do a more full, in-depth interview in a minute, but yeah, just for now, introduce yourself a tiny bit.
Okay, I'm Jane, and I am a horror writer. I'm the author of the recently published book called A Scream Full of Ghosts. You can get it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and other online sites, or you can order it from the stores. And this is my first conventionally published book, but I also published another book called The Drowning Game, which is an ebook that you can get off of Amazon. And I've been featured in a lot of anthologies, probably about 25 now. I've had stories published in anthologies. I've been doing this for about 5 years. So it's really fun. I'm still kind of a newbie, but I'm learning more and more about publishing and promoting and that kind of thing. So
That is awesome. It's wonderful to have you on the show with us.
That is cool.
thanks. Oh, I forgot to mention that I do write occasionally nonfiction stuff for various horror websites. So horror news and a website called Horrified, which is a British one. I've got a lot of articles on there about horror movies and books and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Not get paid, but it's a lot of fun.
I don't get paid. I don't get the money, but it's fun.
And Krista has a corner.
It's not just any corner, it's Krista's corner.
Hey, Krista, what's going on in your corner this week?
Well, I am super happy and excited, especially to be here. Very nice to be here with all my family, especially the new person. Hello.
Always nice to have new members of the fam.
Before starting off with this, I'd like to ask one more time, how are we doing?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Doing good.
Okay.
The timer's doing good too.
Apparently Google's good too.
Google is great.
What else is going on in your corner? You asked us how we're doing. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Recently, I've been working on my drawing skills, and I drew something pretty cool today because
You
my
did?
friend, who I shall not name because they're a friend, we like to keep those names secret.
That's right. We don't want to tell everybody, all our friends. They might try to take them away.
Exactly.
There you go.
I don't want that. But my friend gave me a new sketchbook and some new makeup, so I'm pretty happy about it.
Awesome.
And I'm pretty excited because I get to go on to winter break here soon.
Yay. Almost Christmas time.
Almost Christmas time. That's not what I'm excited about, though.
What are you excited about?
Just staying at home.
Just getting to stay home with your mom. Who you love.
Yeah.
Aw.
With my mom and my dad.
She's such a good kid.
Well, that's why we keep her around.
Absolutely.
Well, that and we have to. But, I love the kid. That's all that it matters to me.
Then we have to.
Wow.
Wow, Dad. Tell us how you really feel. I don't have to keep you around.
I am a stand-up comic. Sometimes I say things for the laugh, even if I'm the only one who laughs.
Well, I guess that's fair. Anything else that you feel like sharing tonight, Miss Krys?
Well, no. Not really. I don't really have much else.
What kind of things are you planning to draw in your drawing sketch pad?
Ooh, I'm actually thinking of sketching out some new designs for our podcast's profile picture.
Cool.
Oh,
You're going to do this one all by yourself, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it all by myself. Totally.
that's great. So you mostly like to do like kind of graphic design rather than drawing like trees or flowers or something?
Well, I do draw that stuff sometimes. I'm not big into traditional art.
Mhm.
Like I'm can be graphic design, but most of the time I make my own characters and stuff.
Oh, okay.
She
Yeah,
makes anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic animals.
yeah. I'm an artist.
Sometimes.
I'm an artist too, but I paint more like traditional stuff. But I really want to get into doing like some horror painting. Somebody said,
Well,
"Why
that
don't
would
you
be
illustrate?"
cool.
Yeah, somebody said, "Why don't you illustrate some of your stories?" So I'm thinking of maybe I could do that.
Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
nice. Yeah.
If you've got the talent, go for it. The closest I've ever art is I spilled paint on a canvas once, and it made a kind of interesting shape. And I left it at that.
Yeah.
Because anything I would have done after that would have just ruined it.
Yeah. I've had some happy accidents like that too.
I tried painting a room once. It didn't come out right. And I was painting it white. So, yeah. Me and art not get along.
Mm.
Just like in tools. If my friends see me with a tool in my hands, oh, they will tackle me and take it away because they know nothing good is about to happen. Now, Laura's great with tools. Me?
Yeah, that sounds like my mom. My mom was totally unmechanical.
But I'm real good at entertaining the children.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a skill.
Yeah. Like what? Which a skill? Being unmechanical? Because if so, I've got it in spades.
No, taking care of the entertaining the children.
Oh, and entertaining the babies. Yeah, it is kind of, except Lexi's real easy. Lexi's very easy to entertain. Krys, not so much, but Krys is also 14 and she's the youngest teenager in the house. So it's like, I'll get a hug and then they'll all vanish and I won't know where they go. I know they're in the house somewhere, but I don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
Which is exactly what you don't want with older children, but it seems to work out for us.
Well, I remember a stage
so
like that.
So, Krys, what else do you got going on in your corner, baby girl?
Well, the first thing we have is finish letting Jane talk. Poor Jane.
That delay tonight is murder.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Well, I have shut down everything that is not directly required for the StreamYard. So
recording. Yeah, no, you're
not
good.
much I can do about it at this point.
Nope, I got you. No problem.
All righty. As long as someone has someone, we're good.
Okay.
So, Krys, anything else? Have you watched any more Supernatural?
Yeah. I got to season 6, episode 3. And then I struggled over.
Wow.
But I've been watching it all month, so it's fine.
I'm still stuck on season 5, I think.
Season 5. It's all too good for me.
I have to admit that later I skipped, like, there's a standalone episode, like one of the last episodes called it's about the Brady Bunch, not the Brady Bunch, a Scooby-Doo. They end up, the boys end up in a Scooby-Doo episode, and it's the most famous Scooby-Doo episode.
Oh, okay.
And it's the one where someone says, I would have succeeded if it hadn't been for those meddling kids. It's really great.
Gosh.
Nice.
That's funny. I've heard about that episode. I just haven't.
You haven't gotten there yet.
It's not connected to the story at all. It's kind of standalone, so you won't like learn anything. It won't be a spoiler. You can watch the whole thing.
There's a different story every single time. Through every season, there's at least one different main story.
Right.
If not a couple.
Right. Yeah. Another favorite.
All right, so sorry, go ahead.
Me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Another favorite of mine is the one where they go to the mystery spot. That's one of my favorites.
I loved the mystery spot.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
The only bad thing is poor Sam.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Sam.
Yeah. And so, but have you ever been to like
Now, my favorite thing I've ever seen. Oh, I'm sorry.
the real life
delay is
mystery
killing me.
spot? Do you stop at those? I love to stop at those too.
You've been to a real what?
No, I've never been to one.
Oh, the real life mystery spots that you find in tourist areas. They're so cheesy, but there's something like really fun about going to visit them.
Oh no, I've been to the Cosmos Mystery area in South Dakota.
Oh, okay.
I don't get the point of it, but I've been there. But then again, a lot of for my money, when I was driving around the country, whenever you come across a mystery area, it's just somebody who's like, I don't know, maybe they'll stop if we call it a mystery area. If they all give us $2,
Right.
we'll make some money. Okay.
Right.
So, I not to put down anything supernatural. I am so Fox Mulder. I want to believe, but sometimes they do make it difficult.
All right, babe, I think you're up first.
Oh, yeah, I know I'm up first. All right, let me get to that. Oh, first of all, insert claps here for corner. Yay, Krista's corner. Okay. So the first story takes place in World War I, and we talked about a tiny segment of this a couple of years ago in our very first Christmas episode, but I found this and it was just so amazing to me because, well, I'll just tell you, and then World War I was a horrible war, and that's obvious, very obvious, but because there's no such thing as a good fun one. But I mean, World War I was particularly bad. Trench warfare, just like there was at no point that you looked up and things were okay in that war, as near as I can tell. It was just bodies after bodies. So it's a very bad time. And as I said, it was primarily fought in trenches as Allied soldiers fought German soldiers, paying dearly in blood and lives for every foot of ground they took. One night, Christmas Eve, the Germans began to sing Christmas songs. The Allied soldiers heard this and began singing Christmas songs of their own. The two sides began serenading each other. Now, at this point, I have to explain. There was no ceasefire call. This was not a thing that the leadership of both sides was trying to put together. This just happened. And it was happening across 2/3 of the front lines. Gifts of whiskey and cigars were exchanged. Several football games broke out, and I'm going to say it's probably European football as opposed to American football. 1918, it may have existed, but I don't think it had made it to the continent yet. And there, in some areas, and this is the part we talked about, soldiers were invited to eat in the houses of families celebrating Christmas, where German soldiers and their Allied counterparts would sit at the same table enjoying the same food. So at midnight on Christmas Eve, the two sides broke apart, returned to their trenches. One German soldier, supposedly, I don't know if this is true, but supposedly turned to one of the British soldiers and said, "Tonight, we have peace. Tomorrow, you fight for your country. Good luck."
See, and I think that this is a really awesome story. And no, you're good. Can you hear me? Okay,
I can hear you.
Just making sure. So I think that this is a really awesome story, and you see it kind of retold. I think they kind of did a retelling of it in the Wonder Woman movie. I think they kind of did a retelling in it in Doctor Who. You've seen it in, several different shows where they've kind of done retellings of that scenario that happened that Christmas. So I think it's cool that it not only was actually a thing that happened in some places, but it was so meaningful that it's moved into our present day media still.
Yeah, I knew about one of the families that had like both German and English soldiers sitting at the same table, because like I said, Krys and I talked about that a couple of years ago. But I did not know about the larger ceasefire that sort of broke out spontaneously on Christmas Eve during World War I. And that just, it's amazing to me because we're a pretty quarrelsome, violent species. So for at any point, a bunch of us who are fighting, trying to kill the other, to go, you know what? Let's put down our guns and concentrate on, loving humanity for a few hours. That's just amazing to me.
Yeah, it wasn't a very purposeful war. I mean, you had this massive bloodletting, and as they said, I don't know, did you see the new version of All Quiet on the Western Front?
Not the new one, no.
Oh, okay. So it's like absolutely the grimmest movie you've ever seen in your life. It's so grim, and but at the end of it, they go through, like, they follow these German soldiers who've been drafted, really young guys, all through like constant campaigns and years of trench fighting. And at the end, there was an announcement saying that at this particular area, I think it was in Belgium, the only ground that was ever gained was like measured in inches. There was no forward movement, despite the fact that all these people were just killing each other over land.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, anyways, I recommend it, but it's pretty grim.
Yeah,
it's long and it's grim. It has a really great soundtrack and a really great cinematography. It's kind of brutal, though. I don't know if you know the story of All Quiet on the Western Front, but it's pretty grim.
Oh, okay. See, the grimmest movie for me was that, what was it? Shaving Ryan's Privates, or whatever it was called.
Saving Private Ryan.
That's the one. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. That was the grimmest movie I'd ever seen, and I thought I liked a good gory movie. Nope, not enough for that film. I'll watch Resident Evil all day long, but nope, you can keep that movie. Thank you. And I heard, what was the movie they just did? Was it Dunkirk, I want to say? That was like, or maybe, I don't remember, but it was like a World War II film. It looked really gritty. A lot of pilots and planes. I guess it could have been World War One. I couldn't tell if they were prop planes or not. So I don't know. But yeah, it looked really grim and gritty. And my friends who like war movies really liked it, which means I probably wouldn't. Yeah, as the closest I want to get to war is MASH. I liked MASH. MASH was mostly funny.
I liked MASH too. It was a good show. I didn't like it when Henry died,
I liked
though.
China Beach. China Beach was another war show.
China Beach is good. I watched that back in the day.
Yeah, that was a good show.
I never watched China Beach, and I liked both the movie MASH and the series. Mm-hmm. I just think they're you can't combine the two in any way, even though the same guy is Radar in both.
Right. The movies is much more cynical, I think.
So,
And the show was pretty.
Yes, the movie is much more cynical.
Yeah.
Can we have a spot for our time to do a promo for one of our fellow podcasts, babe?
Hello, my name is Kayla, and my co-host Lexi and I host a podcast called A Little Wicked. On our show, we discuss true crime cases such as serial killers, missing persons, and victims of crime, along with cults, conspiracies, cryptids, urban legends, and everything in between. Find us on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts.
Good. We can move on to
Perfect.
the next thing, which I believe is you, dear.
It's me, yes. I was just waiting for that podcasting. It's working okay as long as we are pretty good about taking turns, though, even with the delay. So I think everyone's doing great. All right. The next topic that we have that we're going to talk about is the strange disappearance of the Sodder children. On December 24th, 1945, fire broke out in the home of George and Jenny Sodder and their 9 children. George, Jenny, and 4 of their kids made it out of the home okay. However, when George set out to rescue the other 5, he discovered his ladder was missing, his windows would not open, and there was no one on duty answering the phone at the fire department that night in Fayetteville, West Virginia. After the fire, 4-year-old Maurice Sodder, 5-year-old Betty Sodder, 8-year-old Jenny Sodder, Junior, 9-year-old Louis Sodder, and 12-year-old Martha Sodder. The children were never seen again after the night of the fire, and their bodies were never recovered. George claimed that his outspoken opinions against Mussolini and the political happenings in Italy put him in the crosshairs of the Sicilian mafia. Once the fire had been inspected, the house was bulldozed by George, and a billboard was put in its place asking for information on the missing children. Sometime later, they received a Polaroid they believed was Maurice or Louis as a grown-up. Finally, the final known surviving member of the Sodder family perished, and the billboard was taken down. The case remains unsolved to this day.
Okay, right off the bat, I want to say I'm very sorry for giving that to you. I know how you like kids, and I know that must have hurt your soul, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
So they never
Thank you
found
for
what happened.
apologizing. That's what it says.
Yeah, I mean, some people think fire will just eliminate everything, but it doesn't, especially human remains. I mean, even in crematoriums, the fire has to be like, there's a reason it happens in these big steel vaults and it's like all contained, it's that heat's got to be contained or parts of the body just don't burn. And then this happened, I want to say 1940s. And I've never heard of someone at the fire department not answering the phone. And that's really weird to me. But it could be a time thing. Like, I didn't live back then. I didn't research whether it was a common thing to, not have a guy on Tuesday nights, because who ever heard of a fire on a Tuesday night, or whatever. But
Wow, what a sad story.
It is sad. I agree.
There were no
we may
theories.
revisit it later because I found more information on it accidentally. I'm sorry?
Does anybody have any theories about what had happened to them, other than that they burned up, but you couldn't find any remains?
I don't. When I initially did the research, I didn't find any.
Okay.
But is it possible that they do? Yeah, because like I said, I found more today accidentally looking up information on next week's show. So it's possible people, and at some point they got a Polaroid of what they think is one of the kids all grown up, one of the boys, but the way
that was the really
I read it, it
weird
sounded like
part.
it was just an envelope with no return address that had a Polaroid in it. Yeah.
That's the
So,
weird
I
part.
mean,
You wonder maybe somebody stole
maybe it means
the
something,
kids.
maybe it doesn't. Who sends a Polaroid? It's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible that someone did that. And their windows were nailed shut, which I'm sure George didn't do.
So what were you thinking, Jane? You sounded like you had possibly a theory. I want to hear your theory.
Oh no, not really. I just thought maybe somebody maybe have taken them, because they wanted to have kids or something. That's the only thing that
That's
I can
always a
really think of.
possibility.
Yeah, that's all I could think of. But I kind of wondered, I don't think the Polaroid really means anything because they wouldn't be able to, a grown-up person. It could be anybody. It could be any rando person.
Right.
And then somebody was just playing a trick on them, which is like a pretty cruel trick to do to somebody. But that's why the Polaroid is intriguing, but doesn't really prove anything.
For sure.
And the other thing is maybe the dad just did get rid of them. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
Somehow he got rid of them and then set the house on fire.
Yeah, see. I'm cutting out. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. What I will say once more then is that you're right. You're absolutely right in that. Yeah, he could have done it himself. There is so much that's possible in this story, which is why we might revisit it again in the future, but just not on Christmas. It's not a story I want to dwell on around Christmas. I only included it because it happened on Christmas Eve, which is like if you're a bad guy kind of planning something on Christmas Eve, you're kind of a jerk too.
I mean, I'm thinking why the reason it was done. I mean, my mind is now switched into murder mode and thinking of it as a writer who would be writing a character like this. I would be thinking, well, if you did it on Christmas Eve, you could use the excuse that a Christmas tree caught fire and burned down the house. And in the meantime, you had gotten rid of your family and disposed of their remains elsewhere, then told everybody they died in the fire. So, I mean, that's what my crime writer or murder writer mind would be thinking. So.
Well, and that's great because I didn't even think of it that way, but you're absolutely right. That would, especially back before true crime shows and stuff that have taught us so much about forensics, that's definitely the way somebody might think if they were trying to kill off a bunch of members of their family, for sure.
Right.
And it really works around Christmas in the 1940s because in the 1940s, not every place had switched over to electric light. So they still had Christmas trees with real candles.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that's a good point.
That would work.
Yeah.
That might almost qualify for inclusion in your anthology you're working on.
I could definitely do something with that story. I've written 5 Christmas horror stories. I don't know why I'm attracted to that, but I have. And 4 of them have actually been published. So in addition to Red Onion, there's one called The Last Christmas Tree that was in a Flame Tree anthology called Christmas Gothic Short Stories. And then there was another one that was in a Flame Tree anthology, and it was called Rockin' Around the Murder Tree. It's kind of a serial killer on Christmas Eve story. And then I had one called Slime, which is kind of a science fiction Christmas horror that was published in a Hellbound anthology called Monsters, 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 Monsters. And then I had Red Onion published in my own collection. So that's 4 out of 5. So yeah, I don't know. I can plan to continue using Christmas as an inspiration. Somehow I'm able to write good Christmas horror stories.
Well, and
You're able to write good
stories.
stories, period.
Well, thank you.
You're
I
very
try.
good with words.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's good for an author. I know that because like I've had many people like read some of the stories that I've tried to write, and they're just like, "Oh, you're really good at wording things." And I'm just like, "Is that really all it takes?" And they're just like, "It takes creativity too, but like wording things is a big part of it."
Right. It is. It is. I see a lot of stuff from people that could be a lot better. I'm doing an anthology about serial killers that's going to be published next year, called Serial Encounters, and it's about. So this is a multi-author anthology, so it has a couple of stories from me, but from other people. I got submissions from other people all over the place, and I did get some substandard written things, and it's like so the story idea would be good, but it just wasn't. Some submissions were just not up there. So yes, wording counts, and having and knowing how to put a story together counts too. A lot of people fall down with that because
sure.
they don't really know how to tell a story. It took me a long time to really know how to tell a story. So you definitely get better the more you do it.
Yeah, most definitely something that some people really need to work on if they want to be like authors and stuff. But at the same time, on the same token, some people just really shouldn't write. That's probably true. Like, I can't think of any books or anything at the top of my mind that are just so dang awful. But, like, I know there's a couple out there.
Oh, I have one of those little libraries in my neighborhood in front of someone's house where you kind of exchange. Have you ever seen those?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I picked up a book out of that one once that was like supposedly a period romance that was set during the Gilded Age in New York amongst all the Vanderbilts, etc. And I got like, it was so bad. It was so bad. And it wasn't historically accurate. It didn't make you feel like you were in the era. It was just, oh God. And this book, and I looked on Goodreads, and this book had a bunch of fans and, hundreds of, good reviews. And I'm like, oh, I forget what it was called.
And that's the kind of stuff that makes you question humanity.
Yep.
Well, we've kind of done it without introducing it, so let me officially introduce the segment. And now a word from our guest. Do you mind if I do a little bit of interviewing of you?
No problem. I'd love that. Thanks. And thanks for reading, some of my stories. That was great.
Well, you're a great writer. And one of the things I love about how you write is, Harlan Ellison, who is a writer I quite like, once wrote that when he writes, he doesn't seek to move earth, but rather to displace air, to create the feeling of something prodigious having passed. And I feel like your work fits that description pretty well. It's a lot of little subtle things that when you finally push the pile together, you're like, oh my God. It's like a puzzle that suddenly resolves itself. I really like the way you write. So,
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I like to do that.
and
And
for
I
me to
do
compare
like
you to Harlan Ellison is a big deal in my book. So just
that is tremendous because I'm a big fan of Harlan too. Um, and so it's just like that's really a tremendous compliment. I'm sure I don't deserve it, but thank you.
so. Now you started as a corporate writer.
Yeah, I was in corporate writing and PR. I actually worked for a Fortune 500 company for years, and so yeah, I wore a suit and I helped, craft executive statements, and I did newsletters and press releases and all that kind of thing, press tours for a long time. And then I retired I mean, not retired, but I just kind of exited the job market to be a mom in a and then about 5 years ago, I was just like, I was looking for something to do. My daughter had left for college. And so I always liked ghost stories and horror stories. I tried to write other things like more mainstream things. And my heart really wasn't in it. But I found out when I wrote these kind of stories, which I always loved since I was a little girl, I really was able to make a big connection and turn out stuff that was decent. So I just decided to stay with that format and keep doing it. I actually have a second book um, of stories called A Shudder Full of Ghosts. That's kind of a follow-up to A Scream Full of Ghosts. And that may be coming out in a couple of years too.
That's amazing. Um, there's so much I want to ask you about because see, in like that corporate writer position, I would feel like your creativity is so restrained. Like you can't write a speech for a corporate guy and ever have him say like rock on or just something totally outrageous like that. Just wouldn't work. You got to be like stilted and buckled down. So I would think when you were free to do what you wanted, you'd get this that you wouldn't create the kind of fiction you're creating. Like I said, this lighter than air, something just moved by me in the dark. It would be like more impactful, more impactful is the wrong word, more in your face. That's the word I want, more in your face. Because you're not allowed to be in your face in the corporate world, but you show
Right.
such remarkable restraint in your writing, and it always builds to this neat little conclusion. And like I said, I cannot say enough how much I like the way you write. But yeah, so now you've done 20 plus anthologies, magazines, and podcasts from Flame Tree and No Sleep.
Right. Well, not those are ones that are included in that total, but I've appeared in a lot of different anthologies.
Okay.
So several from Hellbound, a couple from Flame Tree. I did have a Christmas story produced, horror story, Rocking Around the Murder Tree, produced by No Sleep a few years ago. And they did a great job. I couldn't believe it. Hearing my words like turned into this kind of like dramatic radio play was really, really cool. And it's really hard to get, into a No Sleep episode. I've sent them other stuff since then, and they just always reject it. And then I've been in, some other publishers, mostly indie publishers. Um, I don't know if you want to know the names of some of the works, but I just had something come out that was an all-girl horror um, anthology of stories that are a tribute to the writing style of Stephen King. So I contributed a story called The Sorting that I think was really in the vein of King's stories about kids. That's one of the things I really like about him is that his stories about kids are so realistic and so kid-like. And so I wrote in my story, there's a group of kids who are going out for Halloween, and their favorite thing to do is to sort their candy. And in my story, they have to go to another kid's house for sorting their candy out. That they don't usually go to, and then they find out that kid has some secrets that he's hiding. So that's one of my favorite. The anthology is called "Hush, Don't Wake the Monster," a tribute to Stephen King. You might want to check that one out. That's one of my favorite stories, actually.
Sounds interesting and something like me and my brethren would do.
And I wanted to tell you about
Now, am I right in thinking
the Drowning
Game?
Okay, the Drowning Game is actually set in my hometown of Yuba City, California, which you might not be old enough. You're 55. Do you remember the Juan Corona murders?
Yes. Well, okay. I don't remember them, but I've heard about them.
Okay, so Juan Corona was from my hometown. And so I was 11 when all of this went down, and he was discovered to have killed 25 people and buried them in peach orchards around the town. Because where I'm from, Yuba City, it's known for its peach and prune fruit that is produced. It's in the Sacramento Valley. It's in the ag area of California. So a lot of people probably think, oh, that's why you became a horror writer. You were impressed as a young age with this huge story about this fellow citizen who killed all these people. But to tell you the truth, I always liked stuff like that even before, Juan made his presence spectacularly known in our town. But yeah, I guess I have written a couple of stories that are based on one, including one that's in The Drowning Game. The Drowning Game is a long novella, about 20,000 words, and that covers the life of this young girl who gets involved in a drowning incident, and she feels really guilty about it. And there's different things. There's actually a supernatural reason why her friend drowned in the swimming pool, in the neighbor's swimming pool, and so that story kind of unfolds. And then there's 6 more stories that she's a character in, and goes from 12 to like 14, and she kind of has some Ray Bradbury style adventures in her town after that. So I just self-published it myself. I didn't know what I was doing.
So she's sort of a sci-fi / horror.
But I put it up on Amazon, and
you're fine. You're
the few people who read it really liked it.
That's amazing.
They gave it great reviews. But I don't know. I want to do something with it somehow. I want to write a screenplay or something based on it, but I don't really know how to write screenplays. And every time I've sat down, I've always just gotten writer's block and anxiety about writing screenplays, which I don't know why that is. But I did want to cover, The Drowning Game. And then, as I said, I'm working on Serial Encounters, which is a multi-author anthology for Hell Brown about, encounters with real-life serial killers. I didn't write about Juan Corona. I have a story about Jeffrey Dahmer and another story about John Wayne Gacy, and then other authors that I included in the anthology. They cover everybody from Ed Gein to Ted Bundy, And this is the whole idea is like, what if somebody has a creepy encounter, possibly deadly, and then years, after that, they find out, it was a famous serial killer that I met. That's kind of the premise of the stories. I'm really kind of excited about this one. I'm interested to see how people receive it.
Yeah, I just just hearing it, and I won't do anything with this, so take it if you want, but you don't have to. Just hearing it though, in my head, I'm picturing like an afterlife meeting between Ed Kemper and Belle Gunnis.
I don't know who those guys are.
Oh, okay. Ed Kemper is a serial killer from I want to say 60s, 70s. Real tall guy. He'd be 70. He's like 70 years old now. Super tall guy. Removed a lot of women's heads and then did things to them. And we won't talk about that because this is a PG. He not a nice guy. And then Belle Gunnis, back in the 1800s, used to lure men to her murder farm in Indiana, where she would kill them, take their money, and then look for new men through the newspapers because they had that was online dating back then. You put an ad in the paper, and so she would like looking for a financially stable man, to be a partner in a farm, and so this guy would come down and bring all his money, and sooner or later she'd kill him, and just add, and then she fakes her own death and disappears.
Wow. Okay, I'll have to look those two up.
Yeah.
But there is a story in there about murderers meeting each other in the afterlife in serial encounters. That's kind of cute and kind of funny, but kind of grim as well. And then my story is, I have my Dahmer story. The premise of it is that this young college girl moves into Jeffrey Dahmer's building, and she's right down the hall from him. And she starts getting suspicious of him because he keeps ordering special deliveries of a certain kind of barbecue sauce. Yeah, he keeps leaving, empty barbecue sauce.
Yeah, I need more of that long thick barbecue sauce.
So yeah, so that's coming out, I think, in the first quarter of next year.
Cool.
So, and you were talking about folklore. I use a lot of folklore.
And then
in
other
my
than that,
stories. I use a lot of folklore in my stories, and I just want to let you know, Red Onion was actually inspired from an old ghost story that goes back to the Depression about this elderly couple who doesn't have any money, and they keep getting deliveries of food that they don't know where it comes from. So that kind of inspired Red Onion, but I turned it around and brought it into the modern age and made it a meal delivery service instead of, a delivery boy just leaving mysterious boxes on someone's front porch. So that's kind of like where I got the idea.
So Red Onion isn't real?
No. It's inspired by a folktale, that's for sure. The company isn't real. The company is fictional, but obviously.
Well, that's what I meant. The company Red Onion,
No, it's not real.
Isn't real?
No, it's not a real meal delivery service.
Because there
was one like years ago in the early days of the internet, like in the 2000s, called Purple Onion. That's kind of where I got the idea for the name.
Well, see, I didn't even know about that. I was just like, wow, in California now they have better meal delivery services.
Yeah, it would be nice to get free food, considering how high food prices are now.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. Yeah, considering how much we have to pay for groceries right now.
Yeah, in California, we also have like a big gas tax on top of that. So they have to get their people who deliver the food have to, have their gas, and that contributes to the cost too. So.
Yeah. Still miss Cali though.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
In,
right
in
now, the
fact,
weather.
there is a restaurant there, and I'm sorry for doing this in the middle of your segment.
Oh, that's okay. Restaurant of what? What restaurant?
Go ahead.
Um, I was just gonna. You were gonna talk about a restaurant, so I was just wondering what restaurant you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, just the restaurant that I probably liked most there, and I remember there was one in Fresno, and they may have had them other places, was called John's Impossible Pizza. And there's a restaurant chain here in Kansas City called Pizza Street that basically it's a pizza buffet. That's it. Nothing special, just a pizza buffet. And I was like, so somebody took that idea, the pizza buffet, and married it to uh, uh, Chuck E. Cheese, and that's what this John's Impossible Pizza was. And it actually wasn't that bad. Like, they didn't insist on having mechanical animals sing to me, which always feels a bit satanic, and I can't explain that in any reasonable amount of time.
I never liked the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics either.
I like them. I think they're funky little guys.
So, yeah, I've never heard of that pizza concept. Maybe
And I
that's
think
just
they're Satan's minions in plexiglass.
I think that may
I'm
be.
sorry, I did not mean to throw that in the middle of your interview, but
Oh, that's okay. I love to talk about the Central Valley. That's kind of more where I grew up, in the northern part of it. It's a whole different California.
It is for sure. The Crystalline was born in Sacramento, and our youngest was born in Merced.
Oh, neat. So you know what I'm talking about. That's cool.
I do absolutely. It was very. When we were reading through Red Onion, it was very reminiscent, talking about. Not that I ever spent any time in the Bay Area, but I did have to go into San Jose a couple of times to take people to the airport. So
Right.
I'm a little bit familiar with the area and some of the different towns that it was talking about and stuff. So that was interesting.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I do write a lot about California. There's a lot of folklore in California, in old California, that I haven't covered yet, but that could be inspirations for stories. There's a
Sure.
story. I don't know how far you've gotten into my book, but there's one called Warriors of the Sand, which takes place in Mono Lake, which was the site of a famous early Clint Eastwood movie. Um, so that you might find that interesting. It's a pretty kind of a bleak area, but it really kind of inspired me to write this story that I'm pretty fond of.
Cool.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of
Well,
that
Krys,
Clint
would you
Eastwood
like to?
movie. What I can't remember.
No, I'm sorry.
Do you
Go
know?
ahead.
I can't remember the name of that Clint Eastwood movie. It's the one where he goes to town and it's an evil town, and he just kind of like settles scores with the residents, and then at the end of the movie, you find out they killed his
is that a
brother.
fistful of dollars?
No, it's High Plains Drifter. That's what it's called. That's the one that it takes place in Mono Lake, the same place
Okay,
that my other
yeah.
story.
Yeah. That was one my dad loved the spaghetti western. So
Oh yeah.
I know them, even though I probably haven't seen any of them for at least 20 plus years.
Yeah, I haven't really. That I saw that one because I was
So
doing a
yeah, just one
review
of
of
those
it.
things that
Because
stuck
some
in my
people think
brain.
that there's like a supernatural element to it, and that the Clint Eastwood character is actually a ghost. And there's some things that suggest that, but it's never really spelled out in the film. So I was actually reviewing it for some kind of horror site or something that I was working on. I can't remember exactly, but a few years ago. But that's why I watched it. Otherwise, yeah, I haven't seen a lot of those films in a long time.
Well, honey, should we have Krys to tell us about being rescued by Santa Claus?
I vote for that. I'd like to hear
Rescued by
that.
Santa? Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Krys.
Thanks. Yep, I'm aware. I'm just gonna have to make it a little big. So, can I move this?
Technical difficulties. One moment.
Uno momento. Like this.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Rutherford, New South Wales, Australia.
Mhm.
Can I just say the numbers?
Sure. 12/22/2014.
Yeah, I was asking.
Yeah, absolutely. December 22nd, 2014. You could have said it that way too.
Yeah, I saw the numbers and I wanted to read them.
Okay.
That's what my brain went for.
That's fine.
12/22/2024 or 2014.
Mhm.
Excuse me. An Australian tradition sees firefighters giving out candy and presents to local kids. The local firefighters were visiting the area doing their usual tradition of handing out candy and gifts to kids on the street when everyone smelled the scent of smoke. The fire department whipped into action, tracking down the fire at a nearby home. Looking inside, they couldn't see anyone but Santa himself. In this instance, being portrayed as by one of the firemen. Smashed his way into the home and found the homeowner unconscious on the floor. Santa brought him out, giving him an early Christmas present.
Aww. That's a sweet little story.
That is very sweet. I really like that little sweet story. It's very short, but it's very cute. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Australia is the
But
Australia.
okay, my only thing is, I'm sorry, what was that, Jane?
Oh, I think in Australia they have another Christmas tradition of, because it's their summer now, because they're down below, of donning Santa hats and like swarming the beach. I've seen photos of that. I don't know if you've seen that. All those swimmers and beach people in Santa hats taking a dip.
No, I never even thought about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think if you search on it, you'll see like the swimming Santas.
Those Santa bods and Speedos,
Oh, exactly. Very few American men are brave enough to wear.
It's like seeing me in a Speedo. It's not attractive.
I don't know, babe. I find you attractive.
Yes. If I'm a homeowner that my home has caught fire and I have somehow missed it, and the first thing I wake up to is Santa, I'm going to think I'm dead. And somebody's going to have to explain a lot to me.
Right. You're dead, but you're going to, maybe you find yourself in heaven and Santa's in heaven.
That's an interesting premise.
Well, according to an old Monty Python movie, it's Christmas in heaven every single day. In fact, if I remember the song correctly, it's The Sound of Music twice an hour and Jaws 1, 2, and 3. Because those are apparently the Christmas movies in heaven.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah. Yeah, some people think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
What do you mean some people? Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I never really thought of it as a Christmas movie until I went online and I saw people in Britain and England on some of their chat boards. They kept insisting it's a Christmas movie. It's a Christmas movie, and then I saw more Americans doing it too. So it's like, well, okay, throw in the towel. I guess it's a Christmas movie.
I'll be honest. I'm on the side of it's a Christmas movie, but mostly because it really seems to upset the people who think it's not one. And sometimes I just like to put a bee in people's bonnet.
I
When
know,
he
I
says
know, I know that
sometimes,
feeling. It's very familiar to me. Sometimes I like to do stuff like that too. I like to tease the Marvel people who are upset because Martin Scorsese criticized some of their movies, and so it's like, oh, okay, well, Martin Scorsese has a right to criticize what he wants. He's a great director. So
exactly, he's Martin Scorsese.
And while I disagree with what he said, I will stand by his right to say it. He certainly earned that right.
I mean, I think a lot of people overreacted.
But yeah, no, I mean, Marvel, Star Wars, Empire, or Indiana Jones is all just Hollywood revisiting its serial roots.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I feel like they should move on at some point and start doing new stuff. That's what I think. And I think that they know that they have to do that. They just haven't figured out yet how to do it.
They could make Red Onion into a feature film.
That would be great. That would be like my dream. That would be like my dream. Or any of my
see it too.
I think when I write my stories, I'm often very much thinking of the kind of episodes of Twilight Zone and New Twilight Zone and Night Gallery. I don't know. You guys probably don't remember Night Gallery.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That was Serling's second series, which was
Oh, I love Night Gallery.
Yeah, I really loved it too. And I sort of think oh, okay, this could be a segment from one of those shows. That's what I want to write towards, something that would be good on one of those shows, because I love those shows so much when I was a kid.
Creep Show.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I do like the new Creep Show series quite a bit. Yes.
Yeah, some of those are good. Some of those are really good. That's the kind of thing that I really like.
Oh, and have you seen the Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix?
I didn't. I saw 2 stories on it. The 2 I think they were both Lovecraft stories, and I didn't really like the ones that I saw that much. So I didn't really watch the rest of them. I do like the Mike Flanagan series on Netflix. I don't know if you ever watched those. Haunting of Hill House, which is kind of a horror masterpiece. And his latest, I'm still watching it, The Fall of the House of Usher, which is a Poe-themed series. I don't know if you guys ever watched those.
I haven't watched it yet, but one of our kids said that it was good.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, those I liked better than Cabinet of Curiosities, but I don't know. I maybe I just picked 2 stories that were duds, and the rest are better. So I should revisit it and watch more episodes. Which one did you have? Did you have a favorite episode?
Well, I'm a huge Lovecraft fan.
Right.
I'm a huge Lovecraft fan, but I didn't like either Lovecraft presentation in Cabinet of Curiosities.
Yeah.
Just because I don't. Just way too much poetic license was taken, and one was grody just to be grody, and it didn't need to be.
Right.
And that always sort of just okay, like Alien, the chest burster. that makes sense.
Right.
It's part of the life cycle of the creature, and they never dwell on it too long, and you don't see
I agree with you. That was my,
but to throw in everything they did in their version of Pickman's model was just
yeah, I agree with
and
you.
I didn't like Dreams in
Is
the
that the
Witch House.
one-
I thought it was just a horrible adaptation, which is sad because I really quite liked Brent in it.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you there. I just felt that there were some, things like over the top, like the woman chopping up her kid and cooking it, and stuff that kind of like destroyed the subtlety of the Lovecraft, some of the Lovecraft endings.
Yes,
And it just
yes,
really
that's the
kind
one.
of,
That's Pickman's model, and
right. That's just really, I don't know what you want to say, over the top, or it's kind of cliched. I mean, because we see these jump scares and these ugly pictures of people with blood running down their eyes. We see that like all the time. It's like
Yeah.
we need some new, some new horror imagery if you're going to go that way.
Yeah.
Show us something new. But it's like no, it's like most of the scenes were just kind of cliched, I thought. But I do need to read.
yeah, and like that part of that series is some of it is supposed to be meant to be grand, and I'm going to say this wrong. Guignol, Guign.
Oh, I say it Grand Guignol.
I can't.
I said Guignol. I think it's French. I think it's Grand Guignol is how you pronounce it. But I got
anyway,
what you're saying.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's supposed to be that, and at least I don't know, do something thematic with it. I mean, a lot of people did not like Rob Zombie's first horror movie, but I could see a big part of that was Grand Guignol, and he made it part of that story.
Right.
Doesn't
It's
make a
not
great
tacked
movie, but I
on.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, some of these the ones in Cabinet Curiosity that I saw just they felt tacked on. They weren't an integral part of the story. It was just tacked on to shock people, And it wasn't you didn't really build up to it.
Yeah. Gore for the sake of gore.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Anyway, I've gotten us way off the beaten path.
Yeah, we have, but it's
Now
fine. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, wait. Need to take a moment for a word from our sponsors. So yeah, let's take a moment for a word from our sponsors.
I feel sponsored.
And that's A Visit from the Mistletoe Bride. We've had all kinds of stories, and this last one is a ghost story because that is also what we do here. I had originally intended for you to read it, Jane, but considering the issues we're having, would you be upset if I read it?
No, not at all. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't want to make this landing longer for you than I have to.
Yeah.
All right. Now you may be familiar with this area. It's Bramshill in northeast Hampshire, England, and it's called Bramshill House.
Oh no, I've never heard of that place. I've been to England and I've seen some great spooky houses and
well,
castles.
I knew you'd been there. I just didn't know if you'd been.
Yeah,
if
that
you'd been
one
anywhere outside of London.
Yeah, that one. We went to Stonehenge, which is in Wiltshire, but we did not go to Hampshire.
Okay. The only reason I have a son who is God, heading towards his 30s now. But he travels a lot, and when he's in England, he and his friends will take shuttle flights, which he says are fairly cheap, to different places around the UK.
Right.
And I didn't even know that was a thing till he told me.
Yeah, they have a super cheap kind of short route airline called Ryanair that's really cut rate. I mean, like unbelievably cut rate. So that doesn't surprise me that he takes these short flights all here and there.
Yeah, what Eddie Izzard was talking about that, and those short airplanes would be like your dad trying to back out the driveway. Get your head down. Get your head down. All righty. Well, so this story takes place at the Bramshill House, which is located in Bramshill. Makes sense. One tells of the daughter of John Cope, who was planning to marry Lord Lovell in the mid-1800s. At a party near Christmas, the bride-to-be was hanging out with her future husband and his groomsmen, who suggested an odd game. With it being Christmas, there was mistletoe all over the house, and the groomsmen suggested that the game they played would be this. The young bride would hide, and when she was found, she would have to give the finder a kiss. The bride dutifully went and hid, and the men split up and searched the house. In their initial search, they did not find her. A second, more intensive search was made, and still no one could find her. The men became quite concerned, and Lord Lovell was particularly worried, but still no sign of the young woman could be found. Finally, the authorities were called, and the most intensive search yet was made, but still no sign of the young woman could be found. Eventually, the search was called off. 40 years later, Lord Lovell is in an armoire and finds a large chest with a padlock. Unlocking the padlock, he discovers his former fiancee's skeleton, still clad in her bridal gown, clutching a sprig of mistletoe in her hand. To this day, people report the ghost of the White Lady, believed to be the ghost of the bride that never was. In fact, guests have demanded to switch rooms because the White Lady is there all night, making her presence known. Michael I of Romania, for example, demanded to know why they kept sending a young woman into his room all night. He demanded to know who she was, and when she told him she was the ghost of a woman long dead, he simply packed his things and left.
So does anybody have
I don't think I've heard that one before.
It's not Jane Nightshade quality, but I liked it.
I liked it. I don't know how she got into the padlocked chest. Did she fall asleep? Nobody knew she was there, and they locked it, and she couldn't get out. I mean, that's my thought. She hid in the trunk, and then she fell asleep, and somebody didn't know she was in there, and they locked it, and then she died. She suffocated and died.
Sounds about right. Or maybe it was one of those once in a lifetime
possible.
Final Destination.
Another idea I had is marriages in those days were almost competitive events, and so maybe someone who coveted the spot she was going to have somehow came along with a padlock at the right time. I mean, I don't know how she'd know or anything, but I suppose it could be prearranged by something among the groomsmen.
Oh, okay. Oh, so maybe
she had a relationship with one of the.
Yeah, I would say like maybe a jealous bridesmaid or other young woman might have just knocked her in the chest and locked it, or convinced her to get in it, to hide in it, and then locked it.
Yep, that sounds fair.
Yeah.
I don't know what the mistletoe is, though.
But I had never heard of that before. And when I originally read it, I thought the place was being used as a bed and breakfast. But no, just important people stay there from time to time. And if I was an important person, I might stay there more often because, well, I like to have my beliefs in ghosts, ratified and presented. The second night, leave me alone. I need to sleep.
Yeah, I would like to. I'd like to stay in a haunted place myself. I don't think I've ever stayed in a haunted place.
Oh, we have. Our last home was haunted with Toast, the ghost.
Really?
Yes.
I named him.
He threw a loaf of bread off of the top of the refrigerator at our oldest child.
Yep.
Wow.
The house was 101 years old, and there was most definitely a ghost that my children nicknamed Toast.
There was most definitely a ghost. The ghost threw cleaning supplies at our mother.
Wow.
Cleaning supplies at me, absolutely.
Where was this house?
Independence, Missouri, right off of the square, right off of the main square.
Wow.
So very historical area. And like I said, the base of the house itself was built in 1901.
Okay. I've never had any ghostly experiences. I have had some experiences where I've had kind of dreams. I've dreamed something and it came true. I've had a couple of those things happen to me, but I've never encountered a ghost before.
I had a near-death experience right before Christmas when I was 13 years old, and I saw my grandmother who died when my mother was 16 years old. I'd never seen a picture of her and never met her, and I saw her in the hospital, and I didn't know it was her. And then that was during the time when I was completely under-oxygenated. They thought that I was going to die, and I have brain damage from that. And months later, when I found a picture in the closet of my home, I was like, who is this? This is the person that was at the hospital. And it was my grandmother, who I had never met or never seen.
Wow, that's creepy. That's a super creepy story. I had an experience where
One thing I've learned. Go ahead. No, I want to hear more.
Okay. I just had an experience, and it's just kind of a little nothing, where I used to go to football games at Berkeley University, at the University of Berkeley, and I had a dream that I would see an old coworker there, and I would be climbing up the stairs, because it's a pretty big stadium, so you climb up the stairs to get to the concourse area to go get some nachos or something. And I just dreamed that while I was climbing the stairs, I would see him on the aisle seat of one of the rows. And like the next weekend, we went to the game. And it was a Saturday, and I climbed the stairs, and that particular coworker was there, and I saw him. And in my dream, I said, "Jack, is that you?" And when I saw him in real life, I said the same thing. It was just instinctively, "Jack, is that you?" So, and I swear it was exactly as how I dreamed it. And I hadn't seen this person in years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's like one of the kind of like little events that I had.
Deja vu is a thing.
Could be.
I mean, I understand. I did the same, like, one time. Like, I've done it a couple times. Like, I've been asleep, and, like, I think this was a couple years ago, but I dreamt about something, and then I woke up, and I was just like, what was going on there? Because, like, I was doing something real specific, and then somebody had said something, couple years later, like I think it was this year, same thing happened. And I'm just like, whoa, okay. That's weird.
Yeah. Oh, well, that is weird. That is weird. Well, I had, I had an aunt who lived kind of like in an old funky house, and she had a back bedroom that was kind of spooky. It was her spare room, so nobody really lived there except for guests. But her mother, my grandmother, stayed there for quite a while, so we always called it Grandma's room. Um, and then, like long after Grandma died, she was a smoker. She was a really super heavy smoker. You could smell smoke in that room, and so that's kind of the other thing where I sense the paranormal thing, because you could smell smoking in 25 years after she died. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. So I have had some of those types of experiences.
Yeah, I've had a lot of odd experiences, and like I've talked about some of them here on the show. But the more I think about it, and the more we talk about this sort of stuff, I'm sort of the opinion, like scientists, I want to say last year put forth the idea that a lot of these bubbles that appear in like the cosmos, might be other multiverses forming, which is a nifty theory. But if that's the case, then maybe the realities don't align quite right, which is how you get Bigfoots and or Bigfoot. Bigfoot. Yeah, that was smart, Dean. Which is how you get Bigfoot and other cryptids and aliens and UFOs and things like that. Is it every so often these things don't align like they're supposed to, and they close to.
Well, that's a theory. I'm looking at Bram's show on my tablet.
We've got a few of those types of theories around here, though.
We have theories.
I
Okay,
looked at
we've read all
Bram's
the
show.
stories. We
Wait
took.
a minute. I looked at
We're really doing it anyway. It's our summary, our final thoughts, and like I said at the beginning, Christmas is kind of an odd, magical time of year. I think we've covered that in every way possible. Jane, welcome to the fam.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
You certainly
this is like
fit. Like
only the second podcast I've done, and so I hope you can clean up some of my boo boos and make me sound more intelligent than I am.
Oh, Jane, you were wonderful, and it is not your fault. We are having some technical issues tonight, and I have a feeling Dean's going to be fighting this like a displacer beast in the middle of a dungeon tomorrow or something to try to get it into something that's a listenable episode. But I have faith in him.
I do too. I really enjoyed the episodes.
Yeah, this is much better than our usual episodes. So I've got this.
Okay. All right. I believe you.
But no, yeah, amazing writer. I want to reiterate that. Before we go, is there anything particular you want to promote or put out there other than, the books, which you can re-mention them all again? Scream Full of Ghosts, which I've read part of and will continue to read and quite like. And anyone out there, if you're looking for a gift for a horror fan, it's a good book to have.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and then there's The Drowning Game.
But is there anything else you would like to? The Drowning Game?
Not really. It's a good story if people want to read it, and it's not very expensive. It's like, I think it's like $3.99 or $4.99 to download it for a 65,000 word kind of story. And then you can follow me on Goodreads. I'm on Goodreads under my name, and I'm on Amazon, so you can see most of the books I've been in on those two sites, and read up on more of what I do. And you can also follow me on Twitter. under my name, Jane Nightshade, and which Dean knows because we connected through Twitter. But people out there, if you want to follow me, you can find me under my name, Jane Nightshade.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, if you're talking to someone at Family Plot on Twitter, it's me. Not that the other two don't have access to it because I told them, but it's me.
Okay. I kind of figured that. So the show is going to come out tomorrow, right?
Yes, it will.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I'm really excited, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how it comes out.
Well, it was so nice to have you with us. It was really enjoyable to have an author with us that we've read and that we all. In fact, I think it's the first time we've had an author that we all three have read and really enjoyed a story from on here. Because as much as I love Danny, I've never read any of his work. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, if I sent you a PDF, but if you want a copy of a hard copy, I'd be happy to sign one and send it to you. If you just give me your contact info, like through Twitter or something.
Absolutely,
if you want
that would be amazing.
Copy. Yeah, and I'll sign it.
That would be awesome. Dean, can you make sure she gets that info?
Yeah, as soon as we get off here, I'll text it to her.
Okay, great.
I have her phone number now. Ha, ha, ha.
Actually, you forwarded that email to me, so I have it too.
Well, text me anytime, especially if you have an idea for a spooky story.
Yes, ma'am.
I really like to get those kinds of texts.
Yes, absolutely. I understand. I used to do a lot of writing myself, so.
Oh, good. Did you write horror, or what did you write?
I didn't write horror. I wrote what nowadays would be considered more like fan fictions primarily.
Okay.
I wrote a couple of kind of comedy plays off of different things that was taking place in my life. And then recently I wrote a medieval short story about a snail who has an entire kingdom shrunk down onto its back.
Oh, interesting.
It was, and it's a terrible mess, and it's a first rough draft. But if you're interested, I'd be happy to let you look at it.
I would be interested when you get a draft that you really like. Just
Absolutely.
send it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds really cool.
It really turned out well. I randomly saw this fantasy picture. Dean really liked it.
Yep. Yes, I still do. I haven't changed my mind on it or anything.
But yeah.
And that's our show. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for keeping us in the Good Pods Top 100. Thanks to Bill Barrett, who does our theme music. That last name is spelled BEHRENDT. If you need music for a project, Bill's your guy. You can reach him at Bill Barrett at, I almost said AOL.com.
Isn't he at Gmail?
No. I can't remember what his email is off the top of my head now. Any other time, I'd have that. Right now, nope, it's gone.
That's what editing's for, sweetheart.
Yep, that's what editing is for. So we'll add it in editing. Thank you, Bill. Thanks to Paige Elmore of Reverie True Crime. Paige has a wonderful crime podcast, and if that's what you're looking for, she's got you covered pretty well. But in addition to that, she has a Canva addiction, and she's combined that with some artwork from her own Krista to do some logo art for us. Thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Paige.
Thanks to Aaron Gnurk of the Big Dumb Fun Show, who continues to promote us locally. Thanks, Aaron. And if you enjoy the show, please tell us in our Facebook group. Got an idea for the show? Let us know in our Facebook group. Join our Facebook group. That's what we're trying to say. Please support Jane Nightshade and buy her books wherever you find them. And make sure you join us next week as we visit the Alaskan Hotel.
Ooh.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.